Have you ever had a customer experience that made you think, there's got to be a better way? An overpriced oil change did that for Adam Alfia, and it led to him opening his first company. His entrepreneurial spirit led to a variety of businesses, including a concierge service and a variety of restaurants and nightclubs. Increasingly, he realized customers stopped engaging when there were service issues and simply took to reviews to express their displeasure. Once again, he thought, there's got to be a better way. How do you facilitate a dialogue between the customer and management in real time so issues can be resolved? This week on Next in Queue, Adam and I discuss the most important lesson when dealing with customers, why customers avoid engaging when there are problems, how he leveraged technology to begin the conversation, how instant feedback can improve workforce management, and how instant feedback can improve employee experience. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Next in Queue, the podcast for contact center and customer experience professionals. Next in Queue is brought to you by Happy2, your service team's personal coach, giving them the process, resources, and insights to deliver the perfect customer experience over the phone. Learn more at happitu.com. Now, here's your host, Rob Dwyer.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Next in Queue. Today, I am joined by Adam Alfia. How are you, Adam?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. Normally we spend a little bit of time talking about kind of your history and where you're coming from. But in today's episode, I think we're actually going to talk a lot about all of that as we go through the process of talking about customer feedback and kind of your history in dealing with customers. And so I do want to, though, first kind of go back because you've been involved with a lot of businesses. But my understanding is that all of this began with a 1986 Jaguar. Can you tell us about that?
XJS, Midnight Blue. So I had when I was growing up, I was a huge car buff. And my favorite was a Jaguar XJS. And I saved up, worked, a bunch of summer jobs till I had enough money and purchased a 1986 Jaguar XJS. And I remember the first time I had to go get a car repair done, one of the maintenance services. It was like $1,200, and it was ready in a couple of days. I went and picked it up, and I remember going, what'd y'all do for $1,200? Because I used to, I'm self-taught on fixing, brakes, and I one time pulled a transmission out of a Jeep CJ7 because the clutch was out, and I didn't want to pay, the $1,500, $2,000 to fix it. So I'm going down the list, and it was, check, and an oil change. So basically, paid $1,200 for an oil change. And it was coincidental because on that day I was a freshman at SMU, and I was in an entrepreneurship class, and our teacher, our professor, assigned us to do a mock business plan on something. And so my mind was already in what kind of business can I write a business plan on. So I asked the guy, I go, people pay this all the time for $1,200 for an oil change? He goes, oh yeah. I said, isn't there somewhere else that I can go get an oil change for $1,200? He goes, not on Jaguar. So I started thinking, I go, there's got to be, and it was that it hit me. It has to be a dealership alternative. Surely somebody else can work on my Jaguar without paying Jaguar prices. And that's really took me on a journey where, out of coincidence, I ended up opening up a repair shop with one of my dad's mechanic buddies that I interviewed during, the interview process about the mechanics industry, the mechanical repair industry. And we ended up opening up a shop together. Little did I know, the day that we were supposed to start the business, he quit his job, and he told his boss that he's going to quit, and his boss doubled his salary. He ended up, calling me up while I'm there with, hey, where are you? And he goes, well, I quit today, but my boss doubled my salary, so I'm staying. And, I was 19 years old with, no idea about anything about the business. We had to find somebody else in a hurry. And that took me, about 4 years to turn that business into a profitable one. It was after I graduated from SMU. And then we ended up having 4 locations throughout Dallas. And in 2005, I kind of got tired of I was in it for, 15 years. And it's a really hard business with customer service. And I mean, you had to really keep up. We had loaner cars, and our biggest shop had, I want to say, 60 bays. So it was a huge operation, but it was just a constant drain. It was 24 hours a day. We had accounts with AAA that would call us in the middle of the night. Hey, I got a car for you. So I was really hands-on. Everything that I do, I'm really involved. So finally I stepped away and I said, I'm selling all of them, and opened up my concierge company. But it's a very, very demanding industry, and I actually stepped away. The reason was BMW had just come out with its, most of our business was maintenance, brakes, oil changes, 30,000 mile service, 60,000 mile service. And BMW had come out with a thing saying that if you bought their car, the first 4 years of maintenance was free. And I saw the writing on the wall. I go, as soon as that's included, and what do they need me for anymore?
Right, right.
So I exited. I sold it. The guy ended up not paying me. I lost all the money from that. But that's a whole different story. And I opened up a concierge company, which really, I took my experiences from the automotive industry, just how to give spectacular customer service. And a lot of times it's just over promising or under promising and over delivering, or whatever the saying is. Just tell people the truth, and be friendly and treat them like you want to be treated in a business. And I took a lot of that experience and opened up a virtual concierge company where you can pretty much call a toll-free number 24 hours a day and ask people to do anything you want, from restaurant reservations, hotels. This is way before the internet. And subsequently, we ended up being, if you're familiar with OnStar for GM, and we still have these 4 manufacturers, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Subaru, and Infiniti. You push a button in any of those cars and it comes here to my call center here in Dallas, and anything you want, we help you with. So, that was my really foray into the, wide spectrum of how do you make people happy with customer service. And that's how I kind of, started the feedback platform. Is about 10 years ago, I started a chain of hospitality concepts, from restaurants to nightclubs to bars. And I saw about 5 years ago, really a big transformation in customer and guest engagement, where even if a manager walks up to you at a table and you ask, hey, I'm the manager here, how's everything? Is there anything that you need? Customers, even if they're having an issue, won't tell you face to face about the issue. They're just, they're scared of that interaction. A lot of times they're caught off guard. They don't want to be the Karen in the group saying, oh yeah, my fries were cold, or whatever it is. So they just shut up and don't say anything, but they go online and leave you a negative review instead of, you gave them the opportunity to say something, but they just, that face-to-face confrontation really catches people off guard. It takes, only about 10 to 15% of customers will actually tell you to your face about issues. The other 85% will either never say anything and not come back, which is the worst because you don't know. And then, the other percentage will, go online and blast you on Google, etc., because, you have to wait an extra 3 minutes for your table or whatever. So, there are legitimate complaints, obviously, bad food, whatever it is, rude waiters, but, let the manager know. If you ask any business owner, do you want to find out about it on Google, Yelp, etc., or would you rather have a customer tell you, whether text message, email, smoke signals, whatever it is, hey, I'm having an issue, fix it. Hands down, everybody says, no, tell me, I want to fix it while you're there. Once you're gone, it's literally impossible to win a customer back, because now it's all in the public. You're having that conversation in public. The customer usually doesn't take your phone call. It's quite an ordeal. So that's why, feedback was born.
Yeah. Now, we're going to talk about that a lot more in a little bit, but I'm curious, with you being in the auto repair industry and spending all that time, right? It's a very niche industry. You're dealing with a product that a lot of people have a very strong affinity toward their car. I'm wondering what the biggest customer experience lesson you learned during that time when you have your shops. What was the one lesson that you took away from all of that above all else?
Tell the truth. The truth, I mean, they say the truth will set you free. When you start, I mean, auto repair shops are notorious. Even now, I mean, I've got a stable of cars that I take to the dealership, and I know they're lying to me. I know, and just again, I always preface like, look, I used to have one of a bunch of auto repair shops. Just tell me what get as technical as you can because I understand it, and they still lie. Oh, I go. I know it's not the problem. Now, a lot of times it's under warranty. No, no, no. That'll fix the problem. And then my wife goes picks up the car. 2 days later, hey, it's still doing it. I knew it wasn't going to fix it. But you can't. I'm not the mechanic, so I can't really argue with them. But tell the truth, especially about time and expectations. Especially we live here in Dallas, and we don't have a public transportation system that most major cities do. So if you don't have your car, I mean, you're SOL. Now Uber's now, back then and 2005 back to 1991, there wasn't Uber anywhere. So if you're without your car, you're bumming rides off people. And every day that they're calling the shop, it goes, hey, is my car ready? Oh, it'll be another 3 days. I mean, remember that Yosemite Sam when he's cursing you under the breath. You could hear it on the phone that
Yeah.
I'm without my car now for the weekend or whatever it is. So it's a pain. So I
Yeah.
always learned, I go, hey, it's going to be 7 or 8 days without your car. And then if it was delivered in 5, they're like, oh my God, thank you. So, it's really important to tell the truth. And one of the things we used to do is actually, this is way back before anybody did it. We used to take, if the customer was there, we had a really nice waiting room. We fashioned like a living room with a fireplace, coffee machine, the whole 9 yards. We used to take customers to the back and show them their car, oil leaks, brakes. People are very visual. If you show them that their brakes are metal to metal or if they got an oil leak, oh wow, okay, yeah, go ahead and do the repairs. So that was the takeaway. Just be honest in what you're doing, and customers will always follow. I still get phone calls. It's been 17 years since I had my auto repair shops. People still call me, hey, I need something with my car, who do you recommend? And I've still got a network of guys that I know. So that's one of the things, like doctors and mechanics.
Yeah, it seems to me, you talked about it, right? I think car shops are notorious for this, but there is, when you find a place that is honest with you and says, hey, you don't actually need to do this, right? It's fine. I know maybe you replace the cabin filter, it says in the owner's manual to replace it, but we took it out and we, just patted it off and it's fine. You don't need to replace it. That automatically makes me trust that place more, and I want to go back because I know they're not trying to rip me off. And there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, we had a rule, light bulbs and fuses never cost anything. So if a customer pops up and he goes, hey, my blinker's blinking fast, we'd go grab a bulb we had a extensive parts department. Hey, not a problem, take out, don't worry about it. Because really, yeah, don't worry about it. Let me pay you now. I mean,
those little things add up,
yeah.
and they will take someone who maybe didn't have any loyalty to you and turn them into a very loyal customer in a hurry.
Yeah.
So then you made this interesting transition, and I want to talk about that, right? What led you into like the restaurant and the bar business? I know you mentioned that you made that transition, but what was the genesis of that?
Well, I had just recently been divorced, A. B, I got my first big check from Infinity when we started the Infinity Personal Assistant program. And a friend of mine had a nightclub, a very popular nightclub that was here for years, that was winding down, and he wanted to sell it. So it was a perfect storm of that. Plus, I wanted a place to meet girls, to be honest. Build a mousetrap, catch a mouse kind of a thing. So I ended up finding my wife, meeting my wife there.
So successful mousetrap is what you're
very successful mousetrap, yeah.
So The concierge business, I imagine that you also gained a lot of insight into customer experience, but in a different way, because you've literally got people calling for completely unpredictable things. Because, as you said, right, they could call for anything. They might need roadside assistance, but they might also just want to make reservations at a restaurant or some other thing while they're on the go.
We've planned weddings. We've had excursions to Italy. We've somebody their father passed away, and he was a big Johnny Walker whiskey aficionado. So we found them like one of these original Johnny Walker bottles from way back when, and we had to turn into an urn.
Oh,
So I
wow.
mean, all sorts of cool things that people. Hey, what if our tagline was and still is anything, anytime, anywhere, and you find out really quickly that anything's a big word.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
you're basically condensing the internet into an agent that will do things for you and find out information. And that was our biggest thing. We don't just give you information; we'll actually do things on your behalf. I still use it. If I go to a hotel and I get my folio, in the email, and there's like 3 or 4 charges that, I had a bad meal somewhere, or they were, they charged me. I just forward to my personal assistant and go, hey, line number 2, 4, and 8 need to be removed. Take care of it. And they will call the hotel and send me an email an hour later. Okay, we're sending you a credit. I'd have to get mad if I have long hold times with a certain company with my AT&T cable. I send the email to my assistant. They wait on hold, and then they'll patch me in once they get an agent on the phone. So it's quite convenient.
Yeah, it absolutely sounds like it. So I've heard that you call Yelp a revenge site, and we've talked a little bit about Google reviews, but let's dive into that a little bit more. Uh, why do you have that view, and what are you doing to change that?
So yeah, I come from it from both a consumer view and a restaurant owner view. I've got dozens of restaurants, and the issue is that Yelp wants you to advertise with them, but then when you have reviews on for your business that are clearly either competitors, or you can prove that that customer never visited your location. So they have, competitors will go on there and leave negative reviews to knock you down. So if you have proof that that customer never ate it, you ask the customer, hey, I don't see you in our database. When did you eat here? Send me a receipt, credit card amount, and the customer can't produce it. You can send it to Yelp, but a lot of times they'll deny it. So it's a very open platform for getting negative reviews. So they want you to, so it's a love-hate relationship. You want them to advertise your business, but then when you have issues, when people are leaving you reviews that, they're naming customers by name, or they're using profanity or whatever it is, and they're supposed to remove it, sometimes they don't. So it's too open, and I know they say they have algorithms to detect if it's, somebody going and doing a bunch of, to all their competitors, but sometimes, they need to remove stuff and they don't. Furthermore, it sometimes gives people on the flip side, you have restaurants that can pay, or ask 60 of their friends to leave Google reviews for the business. So now it's giving you a positive, a false positive on the type of restaurant it is.
Right.
But, look, it's not that there isn't a perfect review system, because, I try to stay away from leaving negative reviews for any business just because I'm in it. But I've had probably 3 scenarios in my life that I'm, hey, let me speak to the manager, and I go, look, if you don't do this, this, and this, I'm going to leave you a negative review. And they still refuse, and I've left 3 negative reviews in my life. And
Wow.
I occasionally get things from Google, mostly on Google, that I get an email saying, hey, your review's been seen 5,000 times, and I go, these people, and nobody's even responded to me, it through Google, through the business, which
Right,
is
right, right.
really, really paramount. I mean, even if you have things slip through the cracks, a customer's mad, leaves a negative review, Google actually looks at the way you're responding to the Google reviews and your ranking. So their thought is, if you don't care about Google enough to respond to customers that are leaving your reviews, good or bad, we're not going to prioritize you on on the list of when people are searching for XYZ restaurant. We're going to lower you down because you don't care about Google. We don't care about you.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of challenge, right? I mean, obviously, there's a necessary evil in dealing with those review systems, and in some ways they can benefit you when you're getting good reviews. But all of that led to something new that you're doing, which is real-time feedback. So tell us more about that platform and what the objective is.
The objective really is to open a conversation, open a dialogue between the customer and management. A lot of times, and I'm sure you and your audience have experienced this, you go to a store and you'll walk around aimlessly for 5 or 6 minutes looking for somebody to help you with whatever the case may be. I'm a big do-it-yourselfer, so I'm in Home Depot all the time. And you'll go to the saw area and you need to cut some lumber and there's no one to be found. Half the time they've got warm bodies in there just to have warm bodies. You'll walk up to 4 or 5, hey, I need to get some, I don't have the code. Okay, well, can you find somebody? Go, well, let me call. And then you hear, them paging somebody for like 4 or 5 minutes. Nobody shows up. I got to go find a manager. Turns out that the only guy that can, if I would have known that, I would either just taken the lumber, cut it myself, but I've spent 15 minutes of my time walking around. So the idea is, how do I get my comments, my issues, etc., in front of the right people quickly? And we found that digitally is the best way. Obviously, people hate making phone calls. Even if I give you a phone number to call and goes, hey, call this guy. People shy away from calling anyone. I've got 6 kids, and I'll call them and they won't answer, and they'll respond with a text. What's up? I go, well, why don't you answer the phone? I'll tell you. And sometimes I find myself in a conversation back and forth through text. I go, just call me. I mean, it's much easier just to have a 3-minute conversation than a 20-minute chat dialogue, text dialogue. But so we built a platform to be just that. We installed it in our restaurants about 4 years ago and found that engagement went through the roof. Customers have given the chance to leave a quick note that they know goes to a manager. Feel much more comfortable having that behind a text dialogue rather than face-to-face. Not to say that dialogue doesn't lead to a face-to-face conversation, but it starts off a lot easier when they can make a complaint through the platform. And we found that customers have lots of things that they want to let a business know, whether it's, we have a restaurant chain here in Dallas that got a bunch of complaints about how dusty their fans were. If you ever look up at a restaurant, you'll find all sorts of, things, light bulbs out, ceiling tiles missing. I'm a big believer in a restroom tells a lot about the way a business takes care of its everything else, because you go in there, you're usually by yourself, you're looking around. If you go to the stall, you got about 30 to 60 seconds to just look around and absorb things. And if their countertop is dirty, if they're missing paper towels, out of toilet paper, no soap, I mean, that's something that pretty much every customer sees when they go into a restaurant, or a majority of them. If they don't take care of that small area, what's going on behind the kitchen, they say that most restaurants, if you walk into their kitchen, you probably wouldn't eat there again, because, it's mayhem.
Yeah.
But, so now we're a big, proponent of putting QR codes in the restrooms, let a manager know. I don't know how many times I've walked out of a bathroom with no paper towels, and I'm, wiping my wet hands on my pants, and I'll see somebody go, hey, you're out of paper towels in the bathroom. Oh, okay, yeah. And I can see him just keep on going. I go, they're not going to tell anybody. So how do I get that information directly to the person who can get the towels put into the bathroom? And it's not only just information going one way. The big thing about real-time feedback is it's a two-way platform. So as soon as the manager gets it, we have quick responses that, based on the comment, I can just click on a button and says, thanks for letting us know we're sending somebody to take care of the bathroom. And customers, when you tell them that, if you respond like within a minute, 2 minutes, somebody's responding to you, go, wow, not only did I just help the restaurant, but they responded. I feel better about, the care and concern of that restaurant or that business to my needs.
Yeah, it's amazing to me I have been, we just had an episode about Net Promoter Score, right? And voice of the customer can come in a lot of different ways, but a lot of the ways that we think about voice of the customer are periodic. They may be after the fact, and they may take some real time to address an issue. And what you're doing is saying, no, 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 let's address the issue right now. And in a retail, physical location, it may not be for every business, but for those physical locations, that sounds like a way to then, if I do have some other type of survey, but more importantly, like just repeat customers, that's what I'm going to get out of that, because I'm fixing issues in the moment as opposed to just waiting on it.
Exactly. And especially we have things called trigger codes where it takes very minimal effort by the consumer. So for example, we launched a retail location that has certain counters that are locked. So people need to come with a key. So we created trigger codes, or patented, where you can just scan the code and it automatically sends a notification to everybody that has a key saying a customer is needing service assistance in whatever area, perfume or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then, they'll respond back to the customer, I'm on my way. That customer feels a lot more confident in doing business with that company because, they're responsive, they care. Customer doesn't have to walk around like an idiot looking for somebody with the key. So it's been an incredible journey, because I'm a very process oriented guy. I'll see a problem and I go, hey, why don't we build something that addresses that? And it's been fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm curious, for some of these businesses, maybe smaller businesses, have you ever experienced issues where whomever is getting feedback isn't actually doing anything about that, and that feedback is not being actioned, and then there's an issue that maybe ownership doesn't know about, or whoever's running everything at the highest level doesn't know about, because someone is kind of getting in the way of that feedback?
Yeah, so we actually just had that. We have a very large Ford dealership, I'm not going to mention the name, that we launched on the platform in their service department. So the way that works in the automotive industry and some other industries like fitness and doctors' offices is as soon as you pay for your services in the dealership, within 1 minute you get a text message and that'll say, Rob, this is a service manager of XYZ dealership. Thanks for your trusting us with your automotive service needs. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your overall experience? And then if they click, it takes them to a site called 1through5.com, which we own. If they click on 5 stars, it says, thanks for your great review. Can you please continue it on Google or Yelp or whatever? It redirects you to a third-party site for you to leave a review. If it's anything but 5 stars, 1 through 4, it then says, we're sorry we didn't provide you a 5-star experience. Can you let us know what part of your experience we can continue to improve on? And then they put in whatever that problem is. Just one, it's not a survey, it's just how do we fail? And that goes directly to the service manager. Well, the biggest problem the dealership had was the service manager. He wasn't responding. So even before we launched a platform, a lot of their negative reviews on Google and Dealer Rater and all that were about, hey, I had an issue. They told me the service manager called me, never called me back. I left them voicemails, whatever it is. So he was, and we didn't know this when we launched them, turns out that he was burying the negative feedbacks as marking them as resolved without ever responding to the customer. Same thing, same pattern. So our success manager that was in charge of that goes, hey, I've never seen this before. The guy's resolving, marking them as resolved and never responding to the customer. So we built a functionality called escalation, that if they see that a certain amount of feedbacks aren't being responded to in time, or they're being closed out without ever responding to the customer, we can put another layer on top of whoever's supposed to get the notification for it to be escalated. And we built that, didn't say anything to anybody. Within 2 days, the owner, the general manager of the dealership called us up and goes, hey, what's going on with all these? Well, we're glad you called. I go, the guy's not handling it. And within a week, it was all solved. Now, it turns out they ended up letting the gentleman go because, you can't, the guy's been doing it for years. You can't fix, it was a fundamental issue. He just didn't want to get customer service. But, It is a problem because one of the things when we launch companies, we preface it, you really want to have to know. Not only want to know, but have to, and usually it's very simple. Customers just want to be heard. Just, and a lot of times it's an issue with a person that, just maybe isn't a good fit for your organization, but it'll highlight fundamental issues in your operations that, that's the whole point of surveying for large organizations is let us find weak points, but usually they get solved organization wide, but very rarely store centric. So a customer doesn't care about, like, Bed Bath and Beyond is a place that I've had sometimes very poor experiences, and I get their surveys, but their surveys, fixes things company wide, but it won't address things on a store level. And a lot of times I've never gotten a response from any survey that I've ever filled out, and I've filled out hundreds, because people don't expect to get responses from surveys. And that's where our platform is different, is we train managers to usually respond within, 4 to 5 minutes at the most. But, we have one of our favorite customers and longtime customers for 4 years is American Airlines Center here in Dallas, where the Mavericks and the Stars play. And their response time is under 3 minutes, lifetime. They're responding to customers, because we have an app that a manager can get these, and they get them whenever they come in and can respond immediately. And, there's security concerns that they handle. People are getting in fights, people falling, broken chairs, and they get on an average night anywhere from 70 to 80 feedbacks. And they have one girl in the central command that's making sure as he's come in, she's responding to customers and then getting on the walkie-talkie and dispatching, whatever needs to be done. But, when somebody cares, it shows. Actually, the girl, Gina, who's the guest experience manager at American Airlines Center, this year won from the NBA the Pete Weinmiller Guest Experience Award, Innovation Award. Wow. And in the article that the Mavs, the whole thing she talks about is real-time feedback and how it's transformed how easy it is to manage guest expectations in real time. So it's been a big win for our company that it was, we got a big article about it and all that. So.
Yeah, I can imagine in a place that size too, just finding an employee to address a need. Actually, just recently, I was at a place where there were a lot of people, and my wife and I found a kid, he's like 2 years old, and he's not with his parents, and he seems to be lost. And trying to find someone to help this child who is clearly lost. We were lucky that we were able to find someone quickly, but I would imagine, in some places that could be really difficult. And if you've got something where you can just alert someone right away and say, hey, I have this need, that can make a huge difference in getting whatever the issue is resolved quickly.
Yeah, actually, funny you say that. Our one of our big industries that we're concentrating on now is parks and recreation. So, they're really, just like everybody else, are really challenged with, finding enough help post-pandemic to manage city utilities going out. If you've been to a public park, they, a lot of times have porta potties in there, obviously swings, water fountains, water fountains can be just, going off, sprinklers could be broken. And there's no real good way other than maybe dialing 311, which, sometimes you got to sit on hold for 15 minutes. People don't look, I'll help, I'll alert you about things, but just don't make it too hard for me. Yeah. So we have 5 cities that have already launched us. Dallas is about to launch us as well. But imagine going to a public park where they have QR codes throughout the park, and anything you need, you scan the QR code and go, hey, your porta potty's full or disgusting, or your sprinkler head's broken. And that goes directly to, to the city, and they automatically assign it to a department. Somebody responds to you, and now you can be a voice, voice of the customer to help, the city you live in, better manage their resources. Because I imagine, Dallas has 400 parks, and finding that rotation where, a group of people are visiting every park on a weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it is schedule, let's concentrate the personnel on the places that have the issues rather than having them aimlessly walk around looking for stuff.
Sure. So I'm wondering, with all of these different implementations you've done over the years, what mistakes have you seen and maybe tried to have to guide people when they implement something like this?
Usually it's the copy, because we have, QR codes on signs. So a lot of times they'll try to make it look like a survey, which you don't want to, because people have survey fatigue. I don't want to take another survey. So we really have to make sure that the consumer, whoever's going to be submitting the feedback, understands that this is a very simple guest engagement platform or customer engagement platform where they can simply send it and it'll get and responded to. So we try to really condense, people only have 3 seconds of time to get their attention. So that's been, a little bit of a challenge. I think we got the copy now. Our feedbacks when we implement correctly have really skyrocketed. Not to mention now that we've integrated with so many processes that now we're actually sending out a text message as part of our platform to a customer that we know just interacted with that business. So, anywhere from I own a cycling and fitness studio with my wife, and we recently implemented it that every time you check or when you check in for a class, our classes are 50 minutes long. 55 minutes after you check in, you get a text message from our manager. It's an automated text message that says, please review your experience on a 1 to 5 scale, and if it's 5, it automatically goes to Google. We had 2 months ago, we had about 50 5-star reviews, and now we're at 158 in 2 months just from that little implementation. Plus, we've gotten the ones that are negative. Hey, the class was not as long as I want, or whatever it is that people put. We can immediately address it, immediately respond to the customer, talk to the instructor. One time we had one that came in saying that our instructor had BO. And, that's something that you would never tell somebody face to face. If they ask you, hey, what do you think? He goes, well, your instructor stunk. It's hard to say, but if it's digital, we call them keyboard warriors. You give them a keyboard and you can't see who they are, and they'll tell you. Now, granted, this person sent it in anonymously because they didn't want to reveal who said it, but no problem. We now got that information. My manager said, you know what? I've noticed that as well. I'm going to say something, and I can even show them the text message, because it's a lot easier for me to tell them that they're having a hygiene issue when somebody complained about it rather than it's just me. Which also, one of the surprisingly 25% of all our feedbacks actually come in from employees. So now, there's a huge, you heard about the big quit and, people resigning, and, especially the younger generation wants to feel appreciated. So now you're really giving a megaphone, because they know it's going straight to management for them to complain about workplace issues or whatever it is that they want to complain about. Now they have a voice channel directly to management to let their voice be heard, and a lot of times that's empowering to be able to have direct line of communication with management. And about 5%, 10% of the feedbacks from employees are come in anonymously, which, if you think about it, a lot of businesses don't have a completely anonymous channel for you to let management know about issues or anything else you want to know. Hey, we could be doing better if we did X, Y, Z, because they're afraid of retaliation by their bosses. So now you can have a direct line of communication to the upper management by simply using the feedback system.
Well, and I think we all recognize that a good customer experience starts with employees that care, and employees that care, they want a good experience. And so that's a great mechanism to allow employees to let people know, hey, this is an issue. Because if you're not doing that and you're not listening to your employees, the good ones may just quit.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we recently launched a chain in Florida, an electronic chain, and they cater to the lower end demographic, kind of like a Best Buy, but most of their clients are not coming in and spending $8,000 on TVs. But they said that one of their biggest issues, one of their biggest negative reviews was their cashiers were not friendly. Now, anybody can be friendly. You just got to put a smile on and pretend you're happy, right? But a lot of employees know that customers will not go and complain to their boss with their name. So they just do as little as they can. So I recommended, why don't we put QR codes on every register that says, let management know how happy that your cashier was today, the QR code. And as soon as the cashier knew that was there, and you see like a customer scanning that QR code, they put a big smile on their face. How are you today? So now they know that I can complain if you're not happy, and it's right there in your face. And they said it completely transformed the entire checkout experience. Now we even gamified it where each location gave away a prize, a cash prize of a couple $100 over a 3-month period, whichever cashier got the most accolades. And I bet you have no idea that every time a customer came to check out, hey, can you do me a favor? Let my boss know how great I was today. And they're smiling and asking about their day. And so it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you can turn it into an incentive really quickly.
Right. Plus, people like to be rewarded for doing good stuff. So, hey, Susie, you got, 15 great reviews today from customers. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to me. I wonder, have you had any customers who are running a separate type of survey, like an NPS or something along those lines, both before and after implementing this? And did they see a difference overall?
Well, yeah. So we actually don't recommend for anybody to remove any current systems that they're doing, because look, we are really an operational tool. Really, we are here to fix things right now. NPS is usually after the fact. So we always recommend, we're not a replacement of surveys, we're a complement to them. So, there are systems like Qualtrics, Medallia that are sent out, etc. And we're a great complement to those, because we'll let you know operationally, how your store is doing and things that you can really concentrate on. And then NPS helps companies go, okay, how are we doing holistically? But a lot of times you'll see that as customers engage with our platform as a business, NPS will increase, not huge over a short amount of time, but over a long period of time. Like I said, our oldest customer is American Airlines Center, back from the middle of 2019. And they have seen a dramatic, not only recognition with this award, for example, but just social media posts, etc., about how responsive they are. So it does affect the NPS over a long period of time. Nothing's immediate.
Right.
But, the customers that would otherwise have bad experiences, to me, the biggest win is a turnaround customer. So one of the car dealerships that we launched for Ford, customer picked up their vehicle, complained about their tire pressure light being on, picked up their car, tire pressure light was still on. He just ordered a bunch of parts for the vehicle that he had to come back for, and he got back in his car, and on the automotive program, they actually have a hang tag in the rearview mirror. Let our service manager know about your experience. So within minutes of him getting his car, send a feedback in, and he goes, hey, I just picked up my car, my tire light's still on. I don't believe you guys did anything to my car. I don't even trust the oil change. I want to cancel all the parts I just ordered. He was getting, some accessories. And the manager, we have the screenshot of the conversation. Hey, this is the service manager. Is it okay if I call you? Call the customer. And then afterwards, he goes, hey, XYZ, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate you explaining everything. Go ahead and keep the parts ordered. And the guy sent him a review request, and he left him a 5-star review on Google. And he says in there, at first I was, worried that they never did anything. And after the manager called me and explained everything, I'm fully confident in their abilities. I love this place. And all it was you have to drive another 10 miles before your tire pressure light resets. But, to him, it was like, oh my God, they didn't do anything. So that, and then, we were able to save a customer. We had another one that, went in there for an oil change, and they told him an hour. And this is a huge problem right now, where people go, yeah, it's an hour oil change. And they're there for 2.5 hours because they're short staffed. And the guy go, we have a QR code in the waiting room. I'm never coming back here again. I've been here for 2.5 hours. Nobody's checked up on me, blah, blah, blah. Manager responds, went talk to him. And in the message, he goes, I was going to buy another Toyota in the next couple of months for my wife. I'm definitely not buying it here. Service manager went in there, talked to the customer, called him the sales manager. The guy ended up buying a car that night for his wife.
Wow. That's a big
So, I mean,
win.
you're taking a customer that's pissed off and you're reacting to it right then. So it's not let the customer cool down. When the customer's pissed off, that's the time to make sure that you can walk in and take care of them, not 2 days later when you see it on Google.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that we've had an opportunity to explore a different kind of voice of the customer, because I do think in the customer experience world, we get a little hung up on kind of certain tried and true methods, but there are other avenues that we need to be aware of to try and capture data in or near real time. And this seems like just a wonderful way to do that. If somebody wanted to learn more about this platform, where should they go?
Realtimefeedback.com.
That's really hard to remember. I don't know if I can. Do you have a QR code for that?
And keep in mind, I know people say that the voice of the customer. What really customers want is a conversation with the customer.
Yeah,
Voice is really a one-way conversation with the customers telling you stuff, but really the response is the magic. Because customers, don't want to be an echo chamber where they're just telling stuff and they don't know where it went, anybody got it, are they doing anything about it? It's really customers want the conversation.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining Next in Queue and talking to us about this. It's been really great having you on the show.
I appreciate it.
Next in Queue is brought to you by Happy To and is produced by me, Rob Dwyer. If you enjoy this podcast, please by all means subscribe and or rate this podcast in iTunes or your favorite podcast app. But more importantly, please tell just one person about this podcast. Word of mouth is the best way for people to discover new content. As always, thanks for listening.